All right, let's get started. We'll call the regular meeting of the Cape Coral Charter School Governing Board to order. My name is Guido Minaya, and today is Monday, November 13th, 2023. We are fortunate to be at the Oasis Middle School, cafeteria, 3507 Oasis Boulevard, Cape Coral, and it's 5:35. With that, let's please start with a moment of silence. Thank you. If we could stand for a pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We can start with our roll call.
Minaya.
Present.
Jackson.
Present.
Ataseles.
Present.
Long, District 6. Long, District 6. Michaels.
Present.
Stout.
Present.
Parent Representatives. Hoagland, Oasis High.
Present.
Shade, Oasis Middle.
Present.
Soto, Oasis South.
Present.
Rousseau, Oasis Elementary North.
Present.
Thank you. Oh, yes.
I'd like to make a motion at this time to allow Chair Minaya to relinquish the Chair gavel to Vice Chair Jackson, who will continue to conduct the balance of the agenda regular meeting for November 13th, 2023.
Second.
I will need a second. Looks like I got one.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
We have another motion, correct? Member Stark.
Group of minutes.
I'm sorry.
I'd like to make motion to move item 15A, new business, to item 9A, superintendent's report, and continue with the balance of the agenda, regular meeting November 13th, 2023.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, that brings us to approval of the agenda, correct? Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
15 minutes.
You got group minutes first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Motion to approve the minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second. Motion carries. Yep, sorry. Apologize. Let's vote. Do we want a formal vote or are we all in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And that brings us to the approval of the agenda of the regular meeting.
Motion to approve as modified.
Okay.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. That brings us to public comments. Public comment is going to be limited to 3 minutes per individual with a maximum of 45 minutes total comment time. I know we have some people wishing to speak tonight. I just ask that we keep it cordial and just this comment.
Yep.
I just ask that we keep it cordial and know that we are listening, and we will not be responding to your comments, but we will discuss after, and we will take what you have to say into consideration. So anybody wishing to speak, please come on up, state your name, your affiliation with the school, and you can begin your comments.
We have a list of speakers that are speaking this evening. First up is Karen Cofield from Oasis Elementary South. after you come up and speak, before you leave the podium, would you please call on the name of the next person that's coming up after you?
Good evening. I do better with children. On behalf of many teachers of the Cape Coral Oasis Charter System, we would like to address the board and Mrs. Collins regarding our concerns about salary. The question of competitiveness compared to the Lee County School teachers' new pay increase is in question. Recently, Lee County Schools provided an increase to their teachers as high as 11% and lowered their health insurance rates as well. This past Friday, we received a message from the City of Cape Coral Human Resources that our health insurance rates would not increase as previously noted at a recent benefits meeting, and we are very thankful for this. Last month, Mrs. Collins provided us with a 1.084% increase from the maintenance and growth allocation provided by the state legislature. This increase is for certified teaching staff and ranges between $514 to $626 for the 2023-24 year. It is unclear if this will carry over to the 24-25 school year. As you know, it is becoming difficult for our current salaries to keep up with the rising cost of living in this beautiful, desired location of Cape Coral, as groceries, rent, electric, and gas prices continue to increase. In fact, on the news, I heard this week that it was the national, it's increased like $734 for the inflational rates going up. Since our school system does not have a union, we are standing here tonight to advocate for ourselves, requesting consideration for a pay increase. May we request the board and Mrs. Collins to consider making the teacher salaries of Cape Coral Oasis Charter competitive with the rest of Lee County's teachers. Thank you. But so to make a very last point, if I had to ask who in this room would consider leaving if we don't get a matching pay increase, could you please stand? Thank you. Oh, next person is Angela Stark from OES. Oh, and I am an OES teacher, Oasis South, second grade teacher.
Hello, my name is Angela Stark. I used to be Angela Tish. You may have known me as that. I've gone back to my maiden name. Good evening. My fellow educators and I are here today to let you know that we are aware of the Lee County School District pay increases that were approved earlier this month. And I would like to read them to you. Any teacher starting from 1 to 4 years received a 5.5% increase. 5 to 9 years, they received an 8.5% increase. 10 to 14 years, 9.5%. 15 to 19 years, 10.5%. 20 plus years, 11.5%. And special instruction received 8%. As you're all aware, and Ms. Cohill mentioned, that the cost of living has dramatically increased over the last 4 or 5 years. I'm a single mother working a full-time career while still paying for my student loans for said career. And I have been denied home ownership and rental homes that are suitable for myself and my child because I don't make enough money. I have needed to supplement my career paycheck with a second job, and I know I'm not alone. Teachers, if you do anything, tutoring, to supplement your income, second job, third job, please stand. Thank you. It is not simply enough to earn a paycheck these days. It's not enough. It doesn't cover our bills. So not only are we working our more than 40-hour work week, we are also putting in extra hours on the weekends and in the evening, taking time away from our families. We love the OASIS system. We do. We do not want to leave to teach at the district. However, some of us may have to in order to pay our bills. We do love our school, and we hope that you're working on a plan to stay competitive for us. Thank you. Deanna Brock from OMS is next.
OHS, sorry.
Your H looks like an M, it's an OHS.
Hello, good evening. My name's Deanna Brock. I teach at OHS. I've been with the system since they broke ground before the elementary even opened. So this really is my home away from home. So I just wanted to say a few words. The current imbalance not only undermines morale, but also jeopardizes the quality of education our students receive. Investing in our teachers is an investment in the academic success of our students and the overall well-being of our community. It's crucial that we work together to address and rectify this issue promptly. Our dedicated educators at OASIS deserve fair compensation for their tireless efforts in shaping the future of our students. Thank you. John Ball.
Good evening. My name is John Ball, and I stand before you today not just as a passionate educator at Oasis High School, but as someone who has dedicated years to teaching within our system. My journey has been marked by a deep commitment to fostering learning, cultivating in my transition to this charter school system. While I wholeheartedly embrace the ethos of Oasis, I must address a stark reality. The significant pay disparity between our system and the Lee County School District has become a source of concern. As my wife, who also serves our community in education, is set to receive a well-deserved raise in the district, I find my own compensation stagnant. This inequality is disheartening as not only affects my ability to provide for my family, but also diminishes the recognition of the hard work and dedication invested by teachers at Oasis. I implore the board to consider the impact of this disparity on the morale and livelihood of educators. Let us work collaboratively towards a solution that ensures fair compensation for all, fostering an environment where the dedication of teachers is truly valued. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Next up on the list is Christina McLean, OHS.
Hi there. Honored members of the school board, thank you for this opportunity to address the matter that's been close to my heart. This year I made the transition to Oasis High School from the school district. So I just gave up my tenure and just recently found out I gave up about $11,000. And so I wanted to come to discuss those concerns. While the intrinsic rewards of teaching are immeasurable, financial consideration plays a significant role in sustaining a fulfilling career. Had I potentially known that was coming to me, it may have swayed my decision. I love my job here and I love this system, but I know that something like that is going to sway people and it could potentially sway people to go back. So I just wanted to come and bring that to your attention. This is an amazing school district here, and this system that you have is amazing, and I love being a part of it, and I want to stay a part of it. Thank you.
Is there anybody else who would like to speak? I'd like to now open up for board discussion. Any board discussion on the topics that we just discussed?
Yeah, obviously as a governing board member, I have serious concerns about the trickle effect of ultimately departures of teachers from this system to district. If teachers leave, how do we support our children? Then families leave, then more teachers leave, and at some point, we no longer have the system that we have today. So I'm hoping that when we have the city manager's report, that Mr. Mason can talk to us about what options that we have to address the disparity that we currently see and the concerns from teachers.
First of all, I really want to thank everybody who showed up today. I want you to know that as I was watching all of you guys speak, I could see how much the school means to you and how difficult it was for you guys to be here. And to see all of you here supporting one another is amazing. And also to see that, you know, this is difficult. But it is important that you are here and important that you say as much, you know, that yes, you love this, but you need to pay your bills. And that is reality, and that is truth. And thank you so much for being here, for letting us know and giving us the opportunity to do everything that we can anyway to, you know, to speak out on your behalf and let the powers that be, you know, hear your voice. And I want you to know, at least, you know, that I and you know, and as much as I'm able to speak for the board, that we support you, because we are so thankful for all of the hard work that you teachers do, and we're so grateful for each and every one of you guys here. And you guys are amazing, and we know that this is difficult. Thank you guys for speaking up, and I hope you guys also remember, please, please, please make sure you are also at the City Council as well. Please let them hear your voices as well, because this is an important issue. You need to be seen and heard, and it's super impactful the way that you demonstrated to us today by, you know, having everyone stand up who might potentially leave or who had a second job. Super, super impactful, and that could also be beneficial for the City Council as well. Thank you.
I would like to also thank you for coming and speaking tonight. I think it was incredibly brave. It's not easy to do, to stand together and do this, so thank you for doing that. I want you to know that you are all heard and seen by this board. I don't think that there's a board member up here who does not wish to give teachers all that they deserve. I think teachers are tragically underpaid, and we understand this. Unfortunately, we are under a lot of constraints. But I can promise you that what we can do is we can look into the matter. We can try to come up with creative solutions. I don't know what those look like yet, but by you coming here tonight, now we can take this back and we can try to find some solutions. Again, I don't know what those look like, but rest assured we will try our hardest to do what's right for the teachers of our school who have made this school what it is. And we know that it is you, the frontline staff, who has made this school what it is. An incredible school. Okay. The number one topic at our meeting today was teacher pay, something that was on everybody's mind. Everybody was debating on how we could get the teachers' pay to increase. There's a lot of great ideas that were floated around. So it's not just us thinking about it, it's our community members as well that were at this meeting today, along with other staff and administration as well. Okay. I also had noticed that most of the teachers who had stood today, unfortunately, that said that they would leave were veterans teachers. The teachers who were here for the founding of the school, who helped create and shape the school and what it's become today. That has not gone unnoticed. I've seen who was standing here today.
Hi, I also would like to add and piggyback on something else about City Council. If you cannot go to the meeting on Wednesday, this Wednesday at 4:30, please email all of them. They do read it, I do know that. I'm not sticking up for them, but it's just some of you might have to work overtime, or if you're doing your second jobs, third jobs, and I suggest please email them as all of your concerns as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much again for being here. I think we've felt this disparity since well before the pandemic, right? So this didn't just happen. It's not only did it start well before the pandemic, but we continue to increase the cost of living in our area, right? This is a major workforce issue, not only for OASIS and not only for K-12, but across the board. So what are the short-term solutions that we can hopefully architect, right? What are midterm and what are long-term? Midterm and long-term are a little easier because some of those plans are in place. I'll give you a sense that because of the hurricane, the county commissioners created a task force called Resilient Lee. And Resilient Lee is broken up into different branches of focus. One is education and workforce, another is affordable housing, another is transportation, then there's a few others, right? Because we went through Hurricane Ian, there is the possibility that we will receive $15 to $90 billion over the course of 5+ years, right? What's imperative is that we get our plans together as a county. What could impact education? What could impact workforce? What's become extremely clear to all of the businesses is that if early learning and K-12 doesn't succeed, how does that impact those that move from K-12 straight to a job, right? How does that impact higher education? It all impacts the workforce. Before they were sort of viewed as, okay, there's K-12, then you've got FGCU, FSW, and then you got the workforce. Now it's clear that if we don't collaborate, it's not going to work for us, right? So there is extreme collaboration. So that is a little bit, what does the time horizon look like for that? The plans, we've been working on plans probably for the last 8 months. We are finalizing those plans over the next month and a half. The county commissioners will receive that and then approve which ones need to be, which projects and funding needs to be shopped around to 27 federal and state agencies that have funds available for this kind of thing, right? So that's more of the midterm kind of stuff, right? Another midterm kind of stuff, and it impacts more capital funding, is that, as you probably know, the sales tax funding that Lee County Schools receives, they wrote it at a time where they didn't have to include charters. And they've been reluctant to include charters, right? So we haven't had the benefit of that. Even though that's capital funding, that does relieve some of the other expenditures that systems have, and we can dedicate some of that, they dedicate some of that other funding that they don't have to spend anymore on operational funding. So that's long-term. What we all referenced is that we are going to see what we can do in the short term. And this strategic planning session that this board just went through was focused on that. So still a lot more homework to do, but without your voice and without your continued voice on this, plans are great, but it needs to be backed up. And you are, in essence, that backup as to why it needs to happen. So thank you for being here, and please, hopefully this is just the beginning of how your voice is going to be shown to us.
Well, guys, questions, please, the issue of public comment? Eric Rex. Okay. That being said, we will move on to the consent agenda. A. Do I have a motion to approve? Do I get a second? Or is there any discussion that Ms. Collins would like on the consent agenda or anything?
Jackie Collins, Superintendent. I can just outline the 4 items in the agenda because we have a large audience so that everybody understands what you're approving. Item 8A is the approval of Title II funds for all 4 charter schools on about an average of $13,000 a school. That is for professional development. We have some things scheduled this year: cognitive coaching, K-game, universal design for learning, things along those lines. I'll go to 8B. That is the request for approval of Title IV funds. Those funds are grant funds centered around technology and student support. Item 8C is request for approval to spend the ESSER 3 funds and general funds on teacher and staff bonus allocation for a $1,000 bonus for the month of December. And item D is a request for approval and acceptance of the Francis R. Dewing Foundation STEM grant for Oasis Elementary South in the amount of $5,000 for the purchase of Little Bits, STEAM and coding kits, and hands-on circuitry and coding. Any questions? Okay.
So the motion before us is the approval of the consent agenda. I have movement, and we need a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We will now move on to item 15, which is new business. We have a presentation of the Cape Coral Charter School Authority audit results of 2023 by Mr. Christopher Hessler, CPA.
Minute, certain hour.
Do we need the screen down?
Oh, yes. That's not what happened.
I get that. Yeah, I'll hear. No, I'll hear that. Actually, yeah, pull it, whatever you like. Okay. All right. Yeah. All right. I'm going to grab the microphone so I can stay near the computer and click here. So good evening. My name is Chris Kessler. I am a principal with CLA Clifton Marsh Allen. I am the principal on your 2023 financial statement audit, year ended June 30, 2023. So we're going to talk through some of the results of the audit procedures here. And just a quick background, just on CLA, we are a global firm, the largest firm in the country. We are here locally in Fort Myers and Naples, and I reside in our Fort Myers office. So let's get into the actual procedures here. So the audit services that we performed, no different than prior years for the first part. So the financial statement audit in accordance with government auditing standards for the year ended June 30, 2023. There was an additional scope this year, and it's called the single audit. And for those of you that are not accountants or deal with this on a day-to-day basis, what the single audit is an audit of the authority's grant compliance on expenditures. And you only have to have that audit performed in a year in which you spend greater than $750,000 of federal dollars. So you all did exceed that threshold this year due to an increase in the funding on the nutrition programs for school, lunch, and breakfast that triggered a single audit this year. So it's likely that could continue or it could roll off your year depending on your threshold. So there's no requirement just because you had one this year that you would have one going forward. So it truly depends on what you spend, which triggers that. And what that does, before I move on, what that means is that when you expend those dollars, there are certain compliance requirements that the federal government sets on those grant funds. And so we come in and we'll audit that compliance and say, did you follow the rules? Were they for eligible students? Were the expenditures in the right purpose for the right program, following all the reports and the rules that come along with it? So the reports that we've delivered, and these are all baked into the deliverables that you have within your financial statements that have been prepared by the city's finance department. But our reports are our independent auditor's report, our report on compliance for each major federal program, and report on internal control over compliance required by the uniform guidance. That's our single audit report. We also issue, I'm not going to read the whole mouthful, but it's the report on internal controls, which would be where we would report any sort of findings or control deficiencies if there were any such things. The management letter, which is required to be issued by the Auditor General of the state of Florida, and then our governance communication, which just outlines certain things to you all as a board, and most of that is what I'm going to talk through here today as well. So some of the required communications here that are included within your deliverables, our auditor's opinion on the financial statements was an unmodified opinion. That's a clean opinion. That means there is no material misstatement within the financial statements and everything was in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. The auditor's opinion on compliance and internal control, your single audit, again, unmodified opinion on your compliance. The scope of the audit, it proceeded as planned. The timing was a little later than we planned due to a delay in starting some of the audit work, but generally speaking, you all issued this pretty quickly. You all have done a very nice job of speeding things along compared to prior years. These were issued in October, which is much, much quicker than it's been for the last few years. The significant accounting policies this year, they were in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles, so GAAP. Also, the authority had to implement a fairly large accounting standard this year, GASB Statement 96. The title's a mouthful. It's Subscription-Based Information Technology Arrangements, SBITAs, is the poorly chosen acronym that we have for that. Essentially what that means is that any sort of licensing or software subscription that you all enter into that's a long-term contract, it is an obligation of the charter school authority. And so it has to go on the balance sheet as if it was debt or anything else. So anything shorter than 1 year does not go on your balance sheet. Anything longer than a year that's non-cancelable. The GASB is now considering that like debt. It's not a major financial impact for you all, but it's a big logistical exercise that your teams have to go through and analyze every contract, not only in the year of implementation, but going forward as well. We had no reported findings, no uncorrected misstatements, no disagreements with management. And then on that note, I want to say thank you to everybody that helped during the audit and get us all the information that we need to be able to have this set of financial statements in front of you. We do ask for a lot of information and ask a lot of questions, so we're always appreciative of the hard work of the ladies in the back there. They get us most of the stuff that our team's asking for. From an audit approach standpoint, and this isn't too much different than what you saw last year when we gave this presentation. You know, our major areas of risk, you know, when we perform an audit, it's risk-based. But, you know, most of what we look at a high level, it's the overall internal control environment and the risk of management override of controls, payables and cutoff of accruals, of course, the implementation of GASB 96 SBITAs this year, and then revenue recognition, the cutoff and classification. And what that means is revenue that you are reporting, we want to make sure that it's actually in fiscal year 23, not something that's related to 24 and getting front-loaded into 23 or vice versa. So talking quickly on the single audit, you know, the two programs, and this is getting a little bit into the weeds, what we deal with on a single audit, the child nutrition cluster is the name of the program under the federal standards, but what makes that up is your school breakfast program and the national school lunch program. So both of those programs were audited. Your total expenditures this year were about $800,000, which is why that went over the $750,000 threshold. So again, the results, unmodified opinion and no reported findings over compliance or internal training. Now, that was the end of my prepared comments, but before the meeting started, I had a couple questions just as far as some of the numbers and some of the deliverables and the information in front of you. So I do want to take a moment to kind of just walk you through a little bit of the financial statements just to make you all familiar with where some of the information is here. All right, there we go. So if you're reading the financial statements and our auditor's opinion that we talk about being unmodified, that's on page 1. That's your clean opinion. But as far as the actual data and the numbers in your financial statements, the one thing, if you're going to read anything in the financial statements, I always recommend the management's discussion and analysis, and that starts on page 6 within the document. What that is, that is the context and the story of what happened during the year, and it also provides comparative information for you, kind of explaining what was different in 23 versus 22 and why it was different. So this is really where that story is for what makes up these numbers. As you look at some of the revenue and the expenditure components during the fiscal year, you can go through page 10 and 11 and 12 where a lot of that has been detailed out as far as the increases in which programs and how that was related to fiscal year 23 results. The other thing I will point you to, because this set of financial statements, there's multiple bases of accounting in here. As a governmental entity, there's modified accrual, there's full accrual, but a lot of times you're operating on a budgetary basis. That's where your all's mindset goes as you're monitoring the performance of the organization. And so on page 51 of your financial statements, that is where your budget to actual schedule is for the year, on a basis that's consistent with how you all are managing the organization on a day-to-day basis. So on that page, you'll see the difference broken out in fairly, high, fairly detailed level here of which areas of revenue and which areas of expenditures were over or under budget during the year. And you can see how that impacted the overall change in financial position for the Charter School Authority for the year ended June 30, 2023. Now, with that said, I'll happily take questions, comments, or answer any other questions on the financial statements.
Questions? Just before, I think you shared the difference between page 51 of the 4.1, almost 4,150,000 versus the 3.4 million. Could you explain those a little bit better?
Yes.
So this is how much went back into reserves, I'm assuming.
So, yes, and what all of these ending numbers really represents is it's the change in your financial position. So when you think of kind of accounting 101 back long ago in high school, college, or wherever you were exposed to that, it's assets minus liabilities. Government calls it net position, fund balance, but it's essentially your equity. It's the difference between those and your increase, your net income every single year. Changes that, up or down. The difference between all of your various bases of accounting, the 3.4 that I believe you're referring to on page 9, that is on a full accrual basis of accounting. So what that means is that it's the accounting basis that's very similar to if you were a company or some sort of publicly run organization or something along those lines that would follow the a business type level of accounting. It includes any sort of long-term liabilities, capital assets, debt, things along those lines that go into your overall financial position where your budget to actual does not take those things into account. You are expending payments on those items or purchases of those capital assets as you incur them, so that budgetary schedule is more of a cash in and cash out type of basis that governments really use to kind of take the financial health and really monitor your transactions in the budgeting process. So that's your main difference, is just differing levels of accounting.
Can you recall, I think that from my experience on this board, this is probably the most we've put back into reserves over the last 8 years, at least 6 years. Does that track with how often you've been doing this audit, or?
Yeah, I've been involved with the audit for about over 5 years, and I can't quote that far back from memory, but yes, I don't recall you all have had that level of increase in your fund balance from prior years. So a lot of the factors that are driving that, you can see it on that page 9. You had a significant increase in your operating grants during the year. You had a significant increase of your Florida Education Finance Program revenue compared to prior year as well, and you spent less than you budgeted. So when you added more revenue, less expenditures, that results in an increase in fund balance.
How do the ESSER grant funding, how does that attribute to what's left over and put back in? I mean, I would attribute that to the excess that we had, 3 million from the ESSER grants. That's got to factor into it, because the increase in FEFP was not significant, was it?
Well, so with grant funding, it's not a black and white answer. Is you have $3 million, and so you have $3 million of more fund balance or reserves, because to recognize that revenue, you have to spend it. So if you get $3 million, the strings attached to that are, well, you need to spend it on something, because that's how most grants, whether they're operating or capital, function. So that's going to result in some of the changes in revenue. Yes, there's various levers you can pull. If those were costs you were going to use different funds for anyway, now you're using grant funds to function, you're going to end up bringing some into fund balance as a result of that.
Any other questions? I'd like to thank Christopher for his presentation, and as always, crunching the numbers for us. We do appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you all very much.
All right, that brings us to item 9, which is the superintendent's report.
Jackie Collins, Superintendent. I really don't have much to say on my report today. We've been in strategic plan meeting all day since 9 o'clock this morning. We had a very good day, worthy of a lot of great conversations. We came up with 3 goals for the audience: continuous improvement, community engagement, and student achievement. 3 goals we had in the past, but they're kind of heavy filled with a lot of different categories underneath them. We did talk about developing innovative curricular platforms. We talked about and spent most of our time, I want to say, talking about increasing a continued revenue source that would help fund our needs, most particularly teacher salaries. So we came up with some good ideas. We came up with, and we're not done yet. This is just the initial process that we began talking about. So we'll have another meeting in December, and we'll probably form a variety of committees that we're hoping teachers will sit on and initiate that will help drive some of these great ideas that we had. So all in all, it was a very productive day today. And I thank everybody for participating. We had all the administrators, a handful of parents, a handful of teachers, and the board members, and it was very, very productive. So once we get things a little more formalized, we can share, and we'll probably share it in the December meeting, the goals that we came up with and more specifics under each goal, so that we can share them with everyone. And then secondly, in my report, I wanted to give a big shout out to the J. Rotzi Cyber Patriots at Oasis High School. Our cyber hackers came in #1 in the state of Florida. Yay. And they came in #2 nationally. So boy, oh boy, oh boy, if you want to hire somebody, I wish Michelle Hoffman was here from the CIT department. If you want to hire somebody for cyber, you need to hire one of our cyber patriots, because they're good at what they do. So that's all I have in my report this evening. Any questions?
Any questions? Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
That brings us to item 10A, the city manager report presented by Mr. Mark Mason, the Director of Finance. No report. No report today. Thank you. We will then move on to item 11A, our chairman's report by Dr. Guido Manaya.
Yeah, just the number one issue right now facing our community is workforce retention, more so than attracting. I mean, you've probably seen this, right? Where it could be, Oasis, it could be Hertz, it could be. We recruit from different parts of the state, different parts of the country. And sometimes they accept the role. They come here, they try to find affordable housing, they can't. They quit that day or maybe the following week, right? So there's a lot of moving parts to our problem. and that there are some real solutions, right? One real solution, just to give you context, is we already received 1.1 billion from HUD. 660 million of that is going to go for affordable housing. It has to go for affordable housing. So yeah, but right now those plans start, then finally it's built, so it might be a couple of years before we see anything. But 1.1 billion, we got probably 2 months, 3 months after the hurricane. We got approved for that. So that's how fast this kind of funding is coming our way. We were shocked as a community because we didn't have all our plans in place for the 1.1, and we had to really focus on that. Now that we're really focused on those bigger dollars, right? The 5, 10, 15 billion that's coming our way. So we always need input. We always need insights from you. Not only can this board do something short-term based on what we have available, but there are longer term. And this board is plugged in. There, I sit on those branches. I'm probably in a workforce issue twice a week. It is front and center, right? So it doesn't relieve the immediate short-term pain, but we all know how quickly we need to move, right? Because otherwise our entire community is not sustainable. But again, thank you so much for being here, for your voice, and please keep it up. You did a phenomenal job of organizing yourselves, and that's the kind of speakers and organization and how you presented was incredible. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Minaya. As always, very insightful. On our December meeting, we would like to invite teachers to come back so that we may provide a report on the teacher salaries, and after we've had some time to analyze everything and see where we stand. Again, we might need a little time to coordinate things and see what we can make happen. But we invite you to please come back and listen to our discussion and topic. That's a formal invitation for the teachers. Please come back. Okay. All right. That brings us to item 12A, the foundation report provided by Gary Kearney.
Gary Kearney Foundation President. How you guys doing? Smile. It's 7 o'clock on Monday. I'll be 30 seconds. Just 3 points. One is we had a rally on the green, which was awesome. We made a lot of money. The auction just closed, made a lot of money. Don't have final numbers yet, so we'll provide those when, And thank you, Ms. Jackie Corey and Ms. Jackie Collins, for reaching out right before the event to see if we could do a final push. I think it helped, and that actually speaks volumes. So thank you. As you all know, the money all goes to the kids, the teachers, via grants, via we also have sports and clubs that we do. So it is important. We changed seasons, so we were a little scared. So, but we did well. More importantly, the Lighthouse Awards nominations closed December 1st. We've had a lot of nominations, but we can always use more. Anybody here not know what the Lighthouse Awards are? No? Mr. Ball? I'm not sure how to take your... Is that a question? But anyway, yeah, please, you guys, everybody, if you just literally look at your email and search Lighthouse nominations, you'll find at least 3 or 4 emails from her or principals or somebody. So please just find that, nominate. And actually, I'm kind of telling the wrong people that, aren't I? For you on TV. But anyway, and the Lighthouse Awards are April 19th. FYI, and again, nominations close December 1st. And that's really it. Just want to bring a little ray of sunshine to your day. Yeah, look, not yet. Just about. I think we're at like 12,000 for the auction.
Can you speak a little little bit about the Carline Pass and how well that did in 35 seconds?
Oh, yeah, I don't have exact numbers, but the Carline Pass is awesome. And some of these non-intangible little services that the school provides, such as Carline, graduation seat, front row graduation seats, things like that, to all the principals and administrators that have approved that, thank you. And I don't know how much it made, but I know last year, I think we got about 3,000 for one of the graduation, front row graduation seat, just one thing. So it means a lot. And again, it goes right back to you. So who here's gotten a grant from us before? And see, checked in balance. That's good. No, but it all means a lot. And it's just, we're just in it together to try to make the world a better place. Any other questions or?
The OES afternoon car line was 700.
700 for the afternoon. Oh yes, thank you, Jack.
Yeah.
In 5 minutes. We got 700.
It went from like 350 or 400 up to 700.
Those items got listed in the 11th hour as far as. So yeah, I know they did really well. I did not have the numbers in front of me, so I just want to be quick because I know they're.
That was the one to beat. Was that?
That was the one to beat.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Happy stuff, and like all your red shirts and. That's it. Any other questions? Sorry, long day. The longer my days, the weirder I get. No questions? And you will be missed, Mr. Manai, by the way. I've really liked working with you in the last few years. Thank you.
As always, thank you for your report, Gary. That brings us to item 13A, staff comments. I don't believe we have any staff comments. No? So we will move on to item 14A, which I will be speaking on. This is unfinished business. I'd like to speak today about the resolution that we had motions to draft at our last meeting. This was pertinent to the terms in which this board sits. So what was happening was City Council wanted to change term limits from our three-year term limits to 2-year term limits. We had asked if we could have our city attorney draft us up a resolution so that we could get it to City Council so they could maybe hear our perspective on this before their meeting, but unfortunately time restraints did not allow so. The City Council has already voted on this resolution, on the amendment, I'm sorry, and it has passed. So what that means for the board is that we will be on 2-year term limits, which I think most of us on the board felt that was not long enough. We felt that a board member needed at least 3 years to comprehend and understand all the dynamics of this enormous school system, right? So what I wanted to do was, if the board's opinion tonight, we can still present this resolution to City Council for their consideration. I don't know what they do with it, but we can make our voices heard again. I wanted to bring this up for discussion because I don't want to overstep our bounds as a board, but I also want to see what the collective thought is. Do we feel that we still need 3 years to properly function as a board? So I'd like to open it up for a discussion, please.
I absolutely agree that 3 years would be best. However, at this point, I was present via Zoom. I watched the vote at this point. I honestly think our time would probably best be spent trying to address as much as we are able to the issues that the teachers have brought forth and advocating as much as possible if there's anything we can do in support towards getting any financial support that they need. We have a lot of people here who had expressed their concern about, their financial needs and how concerned they are about the fact that their pay is not, where it needs to be for them to survive. And so with teachers and staff being the backbone of the school, if we don't have them, we don't really have anything. So to me, that has, that's become the priority. So I think that that should be the focus. Sorry.
Mr. Moriarty, procedurally, how would that even work? I mean, the city has passed an ordinance now that changed the term limits. What would the resolution, it wouldn't override the ordinance, would it?
No, you wouldn't override the ordinance, but it is a statement of the board's it's a communication of the board. So if you're gonna vote on it tonight, you're gonna pass on it tonight, that's the intent of the board. That's the communication from here on out on that topic. I don't know if I'm answering your question or not. The city council ordinance trumps the resolution, so you could argue it's moot, but the city council can always change its mind. And the resolution would at least be a record of what this board requested.
Okay, thanks for the explanation.
Member Schnepp, opinion, please.
Honestly, I'm here for the kids, the staff, and the administration, so I would love to do more than one term, but if it was meant to be for me to sit on the seat, then I will stay. That's how I feel about that, but I do I understand? Do I recognize what the city council did? I do, but let's just see how it goes, but hopefully, I think that we should all be on the board and make better resolution, especially what's happening for our teachers. I think that is the most of importance to get them their funds the way they need to. That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, in talking to some of to Mayor Gunter and others, basically it was how do they streamline all of the board appointments, the committee appointments in a way that makes it easy for them. Whereas before, each committee had a different structure. Some were 4 years, some were 3 years, some were 2 years, and it became almost unwieldy of, okay, now we have to meet on this committee, what about that? So you can see that putting order to it does make sense if you don't have a complex system, right? In this case, there's some level of school law, there's the funding issues, there's our teacher issues, there's our administration issues, busing issues, pandemic-related healthcare issues. For someone to come in and right off the street and be able to provide enough wisdom and insight to put this system on course to the next step, it's a lot to ask, right? And then all of us, if we get selected for one term, we've got 2 years. We can opt out to not throw our name again in the hat, right? We've done our community duty, right? And we're done. So the predictability of our board becomes less sustainable and predictable, that we'll have knowledgeable board members able to make decisions in the future, right? Of course, this is going to play out, and in 5, 10, 15 years, that's when you're going to really see, was this the right decision for this board? But if this allows us to say, hey, in 2023, this was the position of the board, we understand you needed to go a different way, that this is still best practice and this is still our position. They may, 2 years from now, say, you know what? It's not going as well as we thought, let's change it back. It might be 5 years from now. But if we don't put anything on record, it'll be a board 5 years from now that'll have to put it on record, right? Because they may be somewhat, not dysfunctional, but less effective.
Yeah, I would agree wholeheartedly with Dr. Maya. I think we're doing a disservice to our students and our teachers and the staff if we don't have an informed board, right? It may be a 2 year, term limit that informs them, but I can tell you from personal experience, it took me a long time to adjust to this. Again, this doesn't need to be a motion that's voted on if we choose. This is something that I wanted input from the board on to see kind of where we were leading, right? So this resolution would not hurt to present it to City Council. It may not change anything, but again, it does put us on record stating this is how we feel. I don't think it's adversarial. I think it's a proper way to let City Council know what our thought process is. The resolution's already been drafted and approved, so really all we would have to do is just submit it for the consideration. That being said, do we have a motion to have our city attorney submit the resolution for 8423 ordinance? So, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That will bring us to our final board comments and discussions. Would any of the parents perhaps like to speak? Would like to give your insights?
Okay, so my name is Caroline, and I'm with Oasis Elementary North, and I wanted to say that I'm learning a lot by being on as a parent representative on this board, and when I heard the teachers speak today, I felt it in my heart, brought tears to my eyes. I just felt it. So I'm happy to understand your struggle, and I really hope that we can find a solution. And I see that the board is working very hard. Everybody's working very hard. But just listening to what you guys have to say really just made me understand how hard it is. I knew there was a problem, but the way you guys put it just enlightened me further. So thank you for sharing. And I'm really hoping that this is put in front as #1 item in our discussions. And I'm happy to be learning, and I enjoy my time being here.
Mr. Mason, I'm deeply disappointed that there was not a city manager's report because I wanted to ask some questions about opportunities we have to help solve this problem, possible funding sources, and then I'm seeing in the audit report the overages. I'm a little confused about if it's 14.6 million or 6.2 million, but what opportunities we have to use those funds to help maybe with the teacher salary issue. So hopefully maybe in the next meeting we can talk about that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Unfortunately, I wasn't here so I don't know what you all talked about. So there's really nothing for me to talk about. I was told, that all the teachers would be here to say something about the raise that the Lee County School District received. The interesting part is I'm not sure how Lee County did it. They received basically the same funding we do, so it's really difficult to understand how they managed to do what they did. And so, as soon as I figure that out, it'll probably be more helpful here. But there was a question here that you asked the auditor, whether this overage came as a result of the ESSER funds. I think it's a combination of the ESSER funds plus additional funding you received on the FEFP. We budgeted for a certain dollar value, came in $1.6 million higher. Again, it's a student population issue. It's a mix of the type of students that you have. Will depend on the funding that you receive on the FEFP. So there's a very broad spectrum of information to go through. But again, I wasn't here for your meeting today. I don't know what you all talked about. So until I do know what you all talked about, I can't really talk to any of those items.
Yeah, sorry, I was talking about the audit report.
No, and again, the audit report, but you're asking me to review the audit report in conjunction with the comments that were made today. tonight. That's what I heard you say.
Yeah, I was trying to understand the overage and whether or not that could be used for teacher salaries. And that's why I was asking for.
Okay, that I can
next.
probably answer. So I'll go back to the same thing that you normally hear from me. Can you all hear me out there? Cool, good. The charter school lives on a fixed income. Okay, I know I've said this a number of times, and I'll say it again. The charter school lives on a fixed income. Over the last 2 years, you received an award through the CARES grant called ESSERS that I think right now will approach about $5 million when you're all said and done through ESSERS 1, 2, and 3. So you're spending down the last portion of ESSERS 3 this fiscal year, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. So with that said, there's been a lot of ordinary expenses associated with the charter school system that were utilized, that were paid for by the ESSERS funds. So if I've got a bucket of money that comes in that's FEMP related, that was originally designed for those particular normal expenditures, and ESSERS pays for those expenditures, I now have these excess expenditures that weren't used, or these excess revenues that weren't used. So to turn around and try to utilize those for a fixed cost over a period of time implies that we're going to have enough funding in the future that will pick up those fixed costs. All right? So in other words, it's if you have recurring expenditures, you don't use your savings to pay your recurring expenditures on a monthly basis or an annual basis. Otherwise, you don't have any savings left, number one. And number two, your normal, regular income will not cover those recurring expenditures in the future. And so that's the first and foremost of looking at what I've seen as far as the financial statements are concerned, and talking to my staff as to why you have $3 million that kind of more or less went to the bottom line. When ESSERS ends, you're back to utilizing your normal recurring revenues, which are your FEFP, covering your normal recurring expenditures. And so if your excess recurring expenditures is being funded by your savings account, there's a point in time where the FEFP may not cover those recurring expenditures. So that's one of the issues that is certainly weighing very heavily on my mind as we continue to talk about salaries, etc. That does not mean that you can't turn around and potentially use some of these funds for one-time bonus funds. That's usually the normal course of business in school funding. You'll be doing that with the ESSERS 3 funds here shortly because you just approved it tonight, right? $1,000, right? Okay. But as far as continuation of recurring expenditures, it might be a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, I was flipping through trying to find the paragraph I saw, and there was an indication that some of the increase in the fund was because of the renegotiation of the lease, and that seemed more like a fixed amount that would continue.
Well, as long as we're going to go through the financial statements, let's just go through them page by page. How's that? I could do that now if you want. It'd be helpful to understand that, and probably if you go to page 51, it's probably as good a page to start with as any as your budget back.
Well, my comment was that maybe we could discuss it in the next meeting.
I can. I could be more than happy and ready to discuss it at the next meeting if you'd like. I'll go through the entire thing. It'd be helpful. I appreciate what the auditor has spoke about as far as reading and understanding the financial statements. I would certainly recommend that you do read the management discussion item. I also recommend that you read the notes to the financial statements before you start going to looking at the numbers. The notes to the financial statements help explain the numbers before you read the numbers. I've often found that folks that just go directly to financial statements and start looking at numbers, they have more questions than answers. So it'd be helpful to help read the document, and then we can certainly talk about it at the next meeting, and I look forward to it. And I'll find out what you all talked about today, and then I'll have answers to those too. Okay, thank you.
Thank you for your expert advice and opinion. We do appreciate it.
I have a quick question, just what was said. If there was a way for the public schools to use their budget to increase the salaries more than we could, isn't there a way to find out how they did it for the next meeting? And wouldn't this be a good idea to bring up to the table again for the December meeting? Because they obviously found a way and they have an advantage against, in comparison to our school now. So there should be a way, I guess.
Yeah, again, we will take in all the data that we've learned today. We will look at how Lee County is doing this. We'll see if that is a feasible option for us. I don't believe it is, but and then we will, of course, always look to Mr. Mason to help us understand, of course. And I think he said that he was more than happy to look into that so he can speak to it with an educated voice on the next meeting. Next public comment, please.
So this is sort of just on the heels of that. We had a very good sort of session, I thought, with the strategic planning, discussing different ideas that could be helpful in terms of ways to bring in different revenue. And I really found that I really enjoyed the auction. I thought that was good. I did notice myself that there were some items that were placed a little bit later that maybe if more parents were aware of, that we may have been able to even get a little bit more money out of. So my hope is that we can find a way to get better at publicizing some of these things. Maybe find a way, there was also part of the discussion of maybe unifying all of the wonderful things that the school is doing onto one page so that more people can find out about it, which will help us get the response that can hopefully help us generate the resources that we're going to need. So this is obviously going to be an ongoing discussion, and we're certainly going to be looking forward to all people coming in and giving us helpful ideas with this. But like I said, so far with the meeting, I thought it was very, 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 very productive and very helpful.
Yeah, I sit on one of the boards with the superintendent of Lee County Public Schools, right? And as you probably know, because you've got colleagues, some of you have come from there, they were hurting. They are hurting, right? They still have 200 teacher positions open, and they're losing teachers left and right, right? It took the fact that they're losing so many teachers and not able to attract others for something to be done, right? So I would hope, because we're not talking about the Lee County School District is in Ohio, they're right here, right? So I would hope that we don't have to wait until 50% of our teachers leave before we say, uh-oh, city council says, uh-oh, or Mark says, you know what? The best course of action is you've got $14 million in reserves, close it now because it's not sustainable for 5 years from now. We, as a governing board, in collaboration with the city council, don't want to experience what Lee County had to do. They lost some great teachers, and thank God because we have some of you here. But we can't afford to lose you, right? The workforce, the youth can't afford to lose you. So it can't be treated as something like, okay, well, I'll get you a new spreadsheet. This has to be treated in the sense that we are going to experience what Lee County experienced if we don't do something. And not because you're anything malicious, or you've got to do something for your family and your livelihood to make it work. And I think you've provided enough trust and service that we have to make it work for you. So it is the very top of mind, and I would suggest that if you're not talking, if some of our board members aren't setting up an appointment with a city council member to express this, we've got to express it. They can't make decisions in a vacuum. They have to hear it from us first. And it's okay if at the end of the day, we say, can't do it, sorry, we're not the school we thought we were, we don't have enough funding, but it's with our eyes wide open. You've taken it this far, we've got to take it to them, and we'll make a decision with eyes wide open, okay? Hopefully that.
Thank you, Member Manaya. That was a great thought. To piggyback off of what you said, a lot of times we speak in numbers, right? Because that's the bottom line. Everything's about numbers. But a lot of times we forget that those numbers are correlated to children that we foster, that we teach, that we care for in our school system. So I think we can never lose sight that the children aren't necessarily, they're not numbers, they're not bound by them, right? So I'd like to thank the foundation for what they do. I heard the rally was a great time. It got a lot of money, so we really appreciate that, so that some more funding and grants can go to the teachers. I want to thank our city partners, as always, for coming and giving us their insight. It's much appreciated. It honestly is. We had a very long strategic plan meeting today. I think it was extremely successful. We created a roadmap that we will follow for the next 3 years. There's attainable goals on there that we can benchmark, and we can see how we're progressing throughout those 3 years. And again, a lot of that was about retention of the teachers and salary of the teachers. Nothing was spoken as far as salary goes and how we can fix it, but there was ideas floating, right? We have a lot of great stakeholders at the meeting, all people that care deeply about this school. They took the time out of their days to volunteer, a lot of us, especially people on board here who didn't get paid for today, so I thank everybody who attended the meeting. And lastly, I want to thank the teachers for showing up, and your solidarity, it's seen. I don't know that going to city council at this moment is the thing that we do. I think that we get our ducks in a row here on the board first. We come up with a cohesive plan. We let you know what we can and we can't do, and that will give us what we need to go to city council with, correct? So, again, I give you my word that everybody on this board and this dais will look into what we can do. There's no promises, but we will try to come back in December's meeting more informed, and hopefully to give you, a report that we can at least start to work, right? So, thank you again. We do appreciate your time. We appreciate what you do for our school and for our kids. All right. So that being said, our next regular governing board meeting will be held on Tuesday, December 12th at 5:30. Oh, I apologize.
Did the board want to talk about the re-election or the re-application of its members?
Do you believe that is necessary for the board to?
There were some people today that were asking me questions about that. This is the opportunity for the board to talk about it if they want to do something along those lines. And it sounded like you were wrapping up the meeting. And I wanted just to make sure that the board had the opportunity to have that discussion, should it so choose to do that.
Oh, thank you for the reminder, absolutely. So, as we're all aware, on November 30th of this month, then the entire board will be disbanded. There will be no governing board. And then at the December 6th meeting, City Council will reappoint the board. Okay, so anybody that is interested in continuing on this board needs to fill out another application, and they need to go in front of the board for their consideration for the appointment. Okay, I hope that everybody on this board will do so. Again, I don't think there was any the city was trying to streamline, right? They were trying to make things more streamlined. I don't think that they gave our board its just desserts on its attention that it needs for its term limits, but we've submitted we're going to be submitting the resolution of that. So what we need to do on the 6th is reapply, and again, I hope everybody on this board will do so, because I think that this is one of the strongest boards that we've had, and I think we're really making progress for our school system, taking it to that next level that it needs to be in. If we end up with a brand new board with no experience, I think that is going to be very harmful to our school system. So please go and apply. Now, that being said, I know Member Michaels is not able to attend the meeting because of previous work-related engagement that she has. So I would like to ask the board if there's somebody here that could speak on her behalf during that meeting so that City Council can hear. Kathleen, please go ahead.
Hello, everyone. That meeting is on December the 6th at 2 o'clock in council chambers. If you cannot attend that meeting, please let me know, and I will let the city clerk know your circumstances, and they will make a decision. Sometimes they allow a letter to be written, and someone at the city clerk reads that on your behalf, but I'll find out how that goes.
I was advised by legal that we were able to have a proxy person speak on behalf of our member.
Yep.
So if we would like one of our members to speak on behalf of Ms. Michaels,
I'd be willing to speak on her behalf.
that would be fantastic. Ms. Michaels, does that sound good to you?
Yes.
Great, thank you. So that, you know, that way she's not forgotten or not involved, and we can let the board know of her experience so that they can make an educated decision on their behalf. The applications are due, that I don't know.
Kathleen Mulcher, the Mitch 27, and I have received some for some people who are resubmitting their initial application, and so it's now active. And that was on the advice of the city clerk's office. So I told those I'll do it. I'll go up to my office tonight, as a matter of fact, and then deliver a hard copy in original tomorrow.
Perfect. So I do know, as she stated, on the 27th is when the applications are going to be due to the city clerks. They have to be notarized. If nothing has changed since you have filled out your application, or if you do not wish to change anything on the application, then you can just submit it to Kathleen and she will submit it for you. If you feel that there's supplemental information that you would like to provide, or maybe there's a change on your application, please fill it out and get it to the clerk's office as soon as you can. That then it has to be notarized. I believe they can notarize it at City Hall for payment levels. Any further discussion on the board appointments or questions? That being said, our next regular governing board meeting will be held on Tuesday, December 12th, 2023 at 5:30 p.m. That's going to take place here in the Oasis Middle School cafeteria at 3507 Oasis Boulevard, Cape Coral, Florida. We do look forward to the teachers attending as well. Please do so. With that being said, meeting is adjourned.